Happy Tuesday! My name is Alan.
My name's Nick.
And welcome to episode 0. This episode, we're going to kind of explain what we are trying to do. And we offer it to you as both a podcast and a video. And we are doing it this way because we thought that would be nice for us to show you who we are before we embark on this adventure together. So really, we are a podcast first, but we will have supplementary video episodes where you'll get to listen to it as a podcast and also see it on YouTube as a video.
So yeah, I guess that leads us to really explain what Into the Dungeon is then. So basically what we are is we're a duet style actual play tabletop RPG podcast. Now that is quite a mouthful. So basically we are just a RPG podcast where we will be playing duet style games, and what we mean by that is just 2 people, 1 DM, 1 player, which we'll be doing on an alternating basis, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And what we'll be doing is we'll play through a number of existing adventures through different systems and genres, and following the conclusion of that adventure, whether it's as long as a one-shot or as long as a full-blown mini-campaign. What we'll then do is we'll hold a reflection episode, which may also be accompanied by a video like this one, and we'll use that to sort of reflect on, what changes we made to the adventure, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we thought worked well, what we thought could have worked better. And hopefully that will, inspire you to run your own duet style games. And I think that takes us nicely onto why are we doing this, Alan?
Well, pretty much for that. We want to try to inspire you to play with fewer people. It's not that it's a bad thing to play with fewer people, with a lot of people. We do so all the time and we thoroughly enjoy it. But we felt that as we grow older, we have less time to dedicate to playing RPGs, tabletop RPGs. So we found that we could get together easier. Yeah, we could schedule days easier when it's only 2 of us. And we found it was fun to play with just 1 DM and 1 player. And we wanted to show that to the world and hopefully inspire you to understand that you can do the same.
Yeah, because how many times have you got psyched up for game night? You've got your dice, your lucky dice in a bag, your dice jail for the naughty misbehaving dice. You've got your character sheets, your rule books, and then you get a message on your WhatsApp or your messenger provider choice, and somebody's pulled out and the session's collapsed. And it took perhaps weeks, maybe even months to sync everybody's diaries up together to get round the table and play. So we came up with the idea of trying to play more often, and the best way of doing that was syncing the calendars of 2 people rather than 6 or 7 as normal. But as Alan was saying, it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. We still thoroughly enjoy playing as a full party, but this means that we get to play more often, and I think that's what we all want, to play more D&D and more tabletop RPGs in general more often. So hopefully we will inspire you to do the same.
So speaking of D&D, that's exactly what we will be playing off to start off with. And we decided on D&D because it's the one we're most comfortable with, the one we've played the most of, 5th edition specifically. And we have played other systems, or some behind us, for those viewing this episode. But
yeah, sorry, and if you're not viewing it and you can't see, things like Basic Fantasy, White Box,
Dragon Age,
Supernatural, the RPG,
yes,
Star Wars, Age of the Empire, I believe was called. We've only dabbled in some of those. We haven't really played as much as we've played with D&D, and we thought, look, if we're learning podcasting and now apparently video editing and shooting, the last thing we wanted to do for the first adventure or 2 was really get to grips with a whole new system for us as well.
Yeah, so it made sense to continue with what we are most comfortable with.
But yeah, that doesn't mean that all episodes are going to be 5th edition. In fact, I've got quite a surprise for my second turn of GMing, and I'll leave the suspense there. You'll have to tune in and follow us to see what shenanigans we get up to.
Yeah, and if you want to suggest any rule sets, any campaigns, any settings, whatever it may be, feel free to do so, and we'll always consider them. And just getting back to what Nick was saying, when it's his turn to DM as well, we will be alternating as a DM and a player. So it's just two of us, as you can see. One's a DM, one's a player. For the first campaign, Nick will be DMing and I'll be playing. And when that one's over, we'll have the reflection episode, which Nick was talking about before. And then we'll swap over and I'll be DMing. It might not be a 10, 20 episode campaign. It might be a one shot. It doesn't really matter. But I'll be DMing, he'll be playing. And when mine is over, we'll alternate again. And we thought that could keep things fresh and exciting. And we'll both have the chance to do both the DM side of things and the player side of things. So we'll have extra fun in a way.
So yeah, seeing as you're talking a bit about the format of the episodes there, I think it's important as well to discuss the general format of them as well. And in particular, the length of the episodes. So we know, everybody's invested in the latest series on Netflix or HBO or Amazon Prime now that Rings of Power is out. In addition to other podcasts that you follow, YouTube. So we didn't want to make, weekly episodes, and that's important. We will be releasing episodes every Tuesday. And we didn't want to release, 3-4 hour episodes, not because we can't record them, but we thought it's just perhaps too much for the general listener to have to keep up with. And from personal experience, I found that I me in particular, I tend to struggle when the episodes are so long that I can't watch them in a sitting, and then I've got to watch it over the course of the week. Then another episode comes out, and I've still got an hour remaining, which now means if it's a 4-hour episode, I really have 5 hours remaining. And by the end of the following week, I've got 3 hours remaining of last week's episode, plus the 4. It just spirals out of hand. So we thought everybody's already invested and committed in several things. Let's do some shorter episodes, which will be, on the shortest end of the spectrum at the moment. We're looking at about half an hour. And on the longer side, I think about an hour and a half.
Yeah, from half an hour to an hour and a half is where we aim to keep the episodes, really, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well to highlight that the variance is there because we're trying to stop the episodes at a natural place rather. So, for example, if the previous episode went on for half an hour, 45 minutes, we don't want to make every episode half an hour, 45 minutes because it will feel very unnatural. And we don't want to cut it at a place that really doesn't make sense. So we'll keep playing until we know there's a good spot to stop the episode within that range. So some weeks may be a little bit longer than others, but just so you know what to expect going forward.
Yeah, and another thing about the formatting, we've decided to edit episodes. We don't want to bore you with our rules checking and our maths making, like what's 16 plus my hold on was, that kind of thing. So we cut all those things out so that you have the experience of us playing without the boring bits in between.
Yes, so don't think we're like amazing, walking Wikipedia on D&D rules.
Yeah.
It sounds like we know every rule. We don't. We have to check things up.
To be honest, with editing, we'll probably get quite a few rules wrong as well anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much where the editing ends, apart from some music that Nick will talk about now in a bit. But we don't want to over edit either. We want it to feel like if it's like we are playing in the moment and you're there with us in the moment and playing with us in the moment. But there is some editing to make episodes flow nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of picking up on that segue that you threw me down the music. We've learned the hard way that there's a lot of work to editing podcasts, far more than we thought. And initially what we were doing was we were recording the music that we were listening to live, or rather, as part of the actual podcast. And then we realized that as we sort of chopped the parts where we're checking rules, as Alan was saying now, the music then wouldn't flow. And, there would be a very noticeable jump in what we were doing. So the music, we are adding it in post, but the same music that we would be listening to anyway in game. So, and I think it's a really nice spot here for us to give a shout out to Tabletop Audio, who are using the music from their website, which is available for use. It's an amazing site. It's got a whole plethora of different soundscapes, ambient sounds, music, you name it, they've got it. And not just for tabletop RPGs. There's stuff there, for classics that you can use. Sure, you can find something to spice up your game of Catan or Ticket to Ride or Small World or any of those other amazing tabletop games that I'm sure you all love to play as well.
I thought you were going to say to spice up your love life. And I'm sure you can find some music for that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure if you want to take role-playing in a different direction, you can get some saucy tavern music with a bard serenading you.
Thank you, tabletopaudio.com.
Tabletopaudio.com.
So one, check it out. And with all that editing that we have to do, comes a few learning curves. And we want to throw a little disclaimer here. Episode 2 and part of 3, we came across some hiccups. Mainly the card we were recording on was a poor card.
A very old SD card, which clearly wasn't up to the task anymore.
Yeah, so some of our voices were choppy, but we fixed it as much we could, and we're happy with the result. But just bear that in mind as you go from 1 to 2 and 3, the quality might drop a bit, but after episode 3 all is fine, and we're improving with time, but we are very happy with the sound and the edits we've done.
The audio quality, having gone back and doing the mastering now as well, the audio quality definitely jumps from episode 2 and part of 3, which is quite annoying because episode 1 sounded really well. Yeah. So the old SD card seemed to be failing its death saving throws.
So, speaking of death saving throws,
where are we going with this?
No, well, what's our first adventure?
Oh yeah, so our first adventure is the Dragon of Icespire Peak, and the reason we got this adventure to start with was that, certainly for me, it was the first time I'd seen an official adventure, which included a sidekick, I think was the official term, a sidekick system to enable you to play 2 players, one DM, one player. Although having read through the booklet and prepared for this adventure to run for Alan, it certainly leaves a lot of work to be done to make it workable for just 2 people. And when we saw that, we thought, hey, look, we're starting this podcast, we're starting to play just a duet. Let's try out this official adventure. So that is the beginnings of our podcast.
Yeah, and so far we've recorded, as we're recording this one, we've already recorded the first 10 episodes, and I'm having a blast doing it. I mean, personally, I love it, and I think you guys will love it as well, and we can't wait for you guys to hear it. So I hope you get to do so soon.
Yeah, and I mean, perhaps dangerously going into what would be a reflection episode at the end of it. It's been really fun running a game for just one person as well. Normally I've run games for maybe 3 players was the smallest game, and I think at largest at one point was 6 players in person and 1 on Skype. So very different challenges, but equally fun, even just with one person sat across the table from you. And yeah, I just want to add that I think episode 1 doesn't start as written. If you're familiar with the adventure, we do homebrew it a little bit, and it starts with quite the banger, as I'm sure Alan will.
Yeah.
Or rather, you'll hear Alan's in-game reaction to to how the story begins to unfold.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting anything because I haven't played the Dragon of Icespire Peak before, but I most certainly wasn't expecting what happened. And just also to mention that we do roleplay quite a lot, so if you like roleplaying, this is the type of podcast for you. We are not professional voice actors, as you can
Far
probably
from it.
as you can probably tell, but we do enjoy it thoroughly and we have fun doing it, and I think it comes across naturally, but we'll leave the judgment for you guys.
Yeah, leave us some feedback. And I think as we were talking a little bit there about the rules, did we mention rules? Or rather, we were talking about the two-player rules that D&D introduced, or rather the first time that we came across them, the first time that we saw rules for two players to play. There's just a couple of small rule adjustments that we made to make it a bit easier and sort of balance the game a little bit. And we're not going to bore you by going into all the different rules that we've changed at this point. We'll leave that for the reflection episode where we'll discuss why we changed them and all that. But I think if you jump into episode 1, and we wouldn't want you to be wondering why, the DM is rolling for stealth and how the player's been able to take a potion and take an action. So those two rules in particular, we've decided to allow the player character to have to be able to take a potion as their bonus action, and the DM will be rolling for stealth just so that the player doesn't really know the results. We'll leave the narration that the DM gives to sort of describe the scene rather than the player rolling a poorly because he's hidden behind a box and not realizing that his legs are sticking out or his head's poking out from the top. So, but yeah, the rules in D&D anyway as a guide, always play by the rule of cool.
That's
anyway,
right.
So. But if there's something that you think would work better or that you think didn't make sense, you can talk to us on Discord or leave us a comment on your podcast player of choice or on one of our social media feeds. And I think that takes us nicely to your little segment on the outro.
Yeah, it's what he said. Follow us on your podcast player of choice. Comment wherever you can comment. Also, we have Instagram, we have Twitter where you can follow us for now, and Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. The Patreon perks are explained obviously in Patreon, but one of them is a role, like the Magus role, that you can then get a role in Discord also and join an exclusive chat there. And we hope to make a community there of like-minded people so we can, hang out.
Hang out? I'm not going to leave you hanging.
Hang about there, have some fun, play some games, maybe, I don't know, converse. Maybe there'll be some giveaways in the future. We'll see. But our aim is to build a community, to have a hub for any potential listeners and followers that we may get, and we would love to see you all there.
Yeah, and wherever you comment or leave reviews, tag us with #Haaaaaappy Twosday.
Happy Tuesday, that's correct. So with that, we bid you farewell, and we hope to catch you soon as we delve
into the dungeon.